You calling for some wheels? I'm Johnny on the spot. I'll hook you up. Aight, I'll get back to work. You need something, huh? One of your rides? Let me know. I'll bring it by.
Stay safe, all right? What miracle did you want me to perform? All patched up. That car was a woman? Yes, sir.
I was even allowed to, or I wasn't necessarily allowed to, but I had the opportunity to, and we couldn't afford the PS2 expansion to let us play online. Even if we could, they just didn't want to, because they had other stuff to pay for, I guess, like boats and high heels. I never really got to play online until I was on my own, doing my own thing.
Yeah, I just actually figured out that I can record via Twitch and upload it from Twitch to YouTube. I didn't know you can report things from Twitch, which is what I'm doing now. Yeah, I actually seen him earlier in the stream. He drove past me on his bike and it was too fast, and I kind of knew immediately that he was modding. There's so many of them. It's hard to know which one is actually modding. Oh wow, that sucks. I really don't think Rockstar is actually looking at my videos, because I uploaded a few to YouTube and I don't think any one of them has been banned. So I think he'll be all right. No, actually, I go to. I didn't know they had a support line, but I go to their website. Actually, their website have this report page. I'll show it to you. So yeah, you go here and then you go here, you got to report player, PC, date. You can add the YouTube video or the Twitch URL, and the name and what you saw. Hopefully that could be my niche to my Twitch channel. It's just reporting modders. Hopefully. Hey, I wonder, is there really a support line? Because I didn't know that.
How are your things? The essential steps have been taken, Captain. The operation has a green light.
Yeah. I appreciate it. I really do. I'm always getting lost in a submarine. It's possible. I can't imagine how much manpower you would need to run a support line though. They should just actually pay people that play the game to report them, which I'm sure they actually probably do. But it's probably not enough of them. I even tried applying for a job like that for Rockstar, but it was in India, so I had to put on an Indian VPN just to apply. I never got a reply back, so yeah, I know what you're talking about. They make enough money to actually do it though. People that hate modders just have to put pressure on Rockstar to actually do something. Oh, thank you. Wait, what? Yeah, I'd be having a lot of issues with my audio. I fixed most of the problems recently. The problem that I was having with my audio is I reinstalled my operating system very recently, and I installed Voice Meter Banana before I installed my my audio drivers, and it took me a while to figure out what the problem was. So I had to delete all of that and then reinstall my audio drivers and then reinstall Voicemeeter Banana. It's a lot of work, and I'm still confused trying to use Voicemeeter Banana. It takes like 1,000 streams to be proficient. For me, it's gonna take like 1,000 streams. Sometimes you see professionals on YouTube still wondering if their stream is how does it sound, or are they live, or it just takes a while to get proficient at it. Looks legit. I appreciate it. It wasn't hard to do. All you gotta do is just Google stuff like oh man, that sucks. Do the best you can. I don't know what you can do other than Oragel, but fuck, that sucks.
Okay, it's time to catch the bus. You can have that. It's on the road from the prison to Toledo, and I'm here if you need me. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking it'd be easier to take an old school bus, paint it, bar the windows, and make it smell like blood, bowels, and your brother's high school tube sock. Sure, we could do that, but it costs money, and this is costing us, is costing Rishkovsky enough already. So you're hitting the transport, and you're not second-guessing us again. The prison bus is set to move. They're holding a grade X inmate classed national security risk. The bad news is that means there's an armed security detail. The good news is the authorities will think we're trying to break them out, and then they'll be distracted from what's really going on. You read me? Okay, so we need the bus intact. The cleanest way to do that would be neutralizing the driver, just so you know.
Take me back to
Okay, looks like things are heating up. You'll need to lose the police attention before you come anywhere near us again. The locals are watching the roads. Take the bus onto the dirt. You'll have more chance of losing them.
What's up with it? We gonna rob this asshole blind. Job.
Just a second too late.
Designed in California. Apple versus Epic. It's a battle for the ages. Or at least this age, when we all have mobile devices running specialized operating systems that can run apps that read data from internet-connected servers on the other side of the world. Imagine explaining that to someone from the olden times. You see, Demetrius, you can't just go buy an abacus from the abacus store, use it to calculate how much grain you'll have for the winter, and forget about it, because the abacus is itself a store. And 30% from each bead that you buy goes to the guy that made the abacus, and that's only for the beads that guy allows you to buy. And also, some of those beads are themselves tiny abacuses that are also stores. Okay, fine, that was a really dumb analogy. But it does show how hard it is to illustrate the relationship between markets, stores, and products, especially as those things become less physical and more virtual entities that we access through the unlimited internet portals we're all carrying in our pockets. But are they really unlimited? According to Fortnite developer Epic Games, they're not, thanks to Apple and Google's restrictive App Store policies, 30% standard revenue cut, and alleged dirty attempts to stifle competition. That's why Epic sued both of them in August 2020 and spent months preparing for a convoluted and hilarious trial with Apple that ultimately ended with a near total loss for Epic, causing CEO Tim Sweeney to climb a mountain.
I don't get audio from
But
the
this
text, so I
story
didn't know
is
you
far from
sent me a
hardly
message.
because
But
everyone-
good
Yes,
night, man.
even Apple
I'll probably
won.
be on tomorrow,
Is
most
appealing the
likely.
ruling because the
Take
Google
care.
trial hasn't even begun yet, and also because this fight isn't just about cheaper Ariana Grande skins in Fortnite. It's about questions like, who controls our devices? Should phones just be tiny PCs? Is a naked banana man not safe for work? And it's all part of a larger battle going on all over the world. The battle for Apple's soul.
It's a clash of the titans. Epic Games and Apple went to federal court today.
Epic alleges that
The App Store is a monopoly.
At the heart of this is control. How much agency do developers have? They don't want to pay 30%. Apple could win.
and the decision could change the entire app world.
Extremely competitive behavior that is very successful winds up looking a lot like anti-competitive behavior.
I don't know. If you want to think like really, really wild worst case scenarios, it's that Apple decides that it doesn't want to allow third-party apps anymore.
To truly comprehend this story, we first have to understand not only what an iPhone is, but what Apple thinks it is. Because let me tell you, Epic thinks it's something completely different, okay? They're just on completely different wavelengths here. So, this is an iPhone. It's a beautiful, artisanal even, handheld computing device made by friendly hipster savants at Apple. It runs apps, which you can download exclusively from Apple's iOS App Store, where Apple takes a sizable cut of all in-app purchases of digital goods. While there are ways to jailbreak an iPhone so you can get apps directly from the web or other app stores, if you do that, Apple will void your warranty. Because you see, only Apple is capable of determining when software is safe or appropriate to install on their, your iPhone. Compare that to any other smartphone, which could be made by any one of the dozens of companies that spit these out on a semi-annual basis, slapping the Android operating system on them as they're pushed out the door. Google would prefer you get your apps from their own Play Store, where they also take a cut, but they don't view getting apps from Samsung's Galaxy Store or Amazon's Android App Store or even directly from the web as an excommunicable sin. Google has made escalating attempts to collect licensing fees from Android device makers, but at its core, Android is still open source. That's where you can find it in smart TV boxes, cameras, cars, watches, refrigerators, and it's relatively easy for tinkerers to tinkle with any one of them and figure out a way to run Doom. We'll use this for that? But in their tinkle friendliness, both iOS and Android pale in comparison to truly generalized open ecosystem computing platforms like Linux, Windows, and yes, even Mac OS. Many enthusiasts want nothing more than for mobile computers to behave just like desktop ones. None more so than Apple and Google's public enemy number one, tinkerer extraordinaire. Whether it's taking apart a lawnmower as a 5-year-old, unsupervised, or attempting to take apart entire markets, the man clearly needs to get his fingers in, figure out how something works, and then build it better and optimally in a way that nets him some extra shit. Or at least, that's the cynical view. Like, obviously Epic's lawsuits are at least partially motivated by the search for more money, but I think it's clear Tim isn't just trying to Jeff Bezos his way to space. Because if he were, why would he lead Epic Games on this long and perilous journey, taking on the world's largest tech companies with one of the most bonkers legal strategies ever seen? You want to make some money, all you gotta do is buy some NFTs and wait. In 10 years, you'll be swimming in options for the thing, whatever the fuck that is. Hence, because of who Tim Sweeney is, I think it's clear that there's also an ideological factor. A belief that the iPhone, as Apple conceives of it, should not even exist. We have to dig deeper. It's time to go back to how this all started. It's time to go back to the original tech. Come on, I couldn't have 5 more minutes! That's tech longer, baby. Alright. In the summer of 2020, Epic Games set out to trap itself some tech giants. You may be familiar with the story by now. Epic added an option in the mobile versions of Fortnite to buy in-game currency, V-Bucks, directly from Epic at a discount, bypassing the 30% cut in Apple and Google's payment systems. The message to consumers: look, that swoop-de-whoop dancing could be cheaper if Apple and Google kept their grubby paws to themselves. Apple and Google promptly booted Fortnite from their app stores for breaking the terms of service, triggering Epic's epic trap. Observe now a dramatic reenactment. Aha! They fell victim to one of the classic blunders, and it hurt them really bad. That's not gonna heal up right away. These lawsuits will be dissected and argued about for months to come, but this is Epic's case in a nutshell. Here is the market for mobile devices, okay? Neither Apple nor Google have a monopoly here. They compete with each other, that's fine, okay? But Epic argues that iPhones and Android phones aren't just products, they're also sub-markets where developers compete to offer apps. That's what those little squares are. I can't draw. Down here, Apple and Google do have effective monopolies in their respective mobile app submarkets, and they enforce this duopoly through anti-competitive action. On iOS, this means the blocking of sideloading and third-party app stores and payment processors. On Android, using third-party app stores and sideloading are allowed, but it often involves an onerous process full of scary warnings. Ooh! On top of that, Google has been accused of making shady deals to obstruct anyone trying to take a shot at the big boss. Now, Epic wants these barriers to competition removed so they can launch a proper mobile version of the Epic Game Store, which would presumably take the same 12% cut that it does on PC. If that route fails, then they could settle for the right to use a third-party payment processor in iOS or Play Store apps, something that's actually already allowed if your app sells physical goods or services like Amazon or Uber. Either of these options, having your own app store or payment processor, would let Epic and other developers avoid paying the 30% cut. Or so Epic thought. Legally, Apple may still have the right to a commission on in-app purchases as a way to benefit from their intellectual property if the judge rules that way. So, remember, Epic views an iPhone as basically a little PC. It's hardware that happens to run Apple's mobile OS. A thought that makes about as much sense to Apple as a drowning fish. Because to Apple, iPhone is a singular entity created when a meticulously crafted body is imbued with the breath of life that is iOS. Oh, it's iOS! What Epic criticizes as restrictions are, in actuality, features of the iPhone. Those strict limits enable the iPhone's security, ease of use for both developers and users, and tasteful curation of the vast chaos of internet content. Apple may have a monopoly on the iOS apps distribution market, but they argue that's not a valid sub-market when the App Store is what makes iOS iOS. It's it. Epic says Apple's restricting user choice. Apple says those users have already made the choice to buy an iPhone. You want a sideload, get an Android. Don't buy a blender and complain that it sucks at grilling steak. We got a visual for that? Oh, gross. Now, back to the story. After Epic dropped their declaration of war, there were multiple skirmishes. Epic tried to mobilize its large, mostly young player base against Apple with a very tasteful #free Fortnite tournament. Apple tried to ban Epic's developer accounts, which would have screwed over any game using Unreal Engine. Okay, buddy was big mad. And other big tech companies were subpoenaed for documents, leading to a delightful exchange where Apple asked Valve for price and sales data for over 30,000 Steam games and in-game items, including every price change since 2015, and Valve was like, LOL, we don't have that? You think we're keeping track? Our CEO went full Lebowski and moved to Middle-earth. This isn't JP Morgan, sir, this is a Wendy's. Many gamers cheered from the metaphorical bleachers as one of the pioneers of the PC gaming industry took on the Californian tech market. Those who weren't still pissed about Epic Games snagging exclusive games away from Steam. But even if you think an Epic win against Apple would be good for the mobile industry, it's important to note here that Epic's trap wasn't just over the top. As a legal strategy, it was also a questionable move at best. Here's what business attorney and my favorite YouTuber while I was researching the story, Richard Hogue, had to say.
Epic had an expert that effectively said Apple was okay before 2010, and even though they didn't change their rules at all, didn't change what we're talking about here, it became illegal based on their operating system market share. And that's a tough pace to break.
See, Apple hadn't significantly changed anything about how the App Store works. Epic seemingly just decided, at some arbitrary point, that the rules they had agreed to follow when they signed the iOS developer agreement were bad now. In fact, they were illegal, so it's fine to break them and withhold that 30% of Fortnite revenue. However, as Epic was about to find out, the law doesn't really care whether you think it should be illegal to imprison animals in a pet store. You can't break in and let them loose in a shopping mall. We talked about this, Sarah!
But they're so cute!
Who are these people? Where do we find these people? Questionable legal strategy or no, on May 3rd, 2021, the trial of Epic Games versus Apple finally commenced, presided over by Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers, who had also adjudicated a couple previous cases against Apple. But I doubt she was prepared for the hundreds of Fortnite players who spammed the trial's call-in line, leading to the first 20 minutes of the trial being dominated by gems like this.
Oh, yo, we want mobile back, bro. Can y'all bring back mobile?
Hey, Judge, I don't care if Apple's chain you under the belt. I don't care who wins. Just bring mobile back. Oh, yeah, subscribe to my YouTube, Justin XL.
Justin, I subscribe to you.
Bring back mobile. This is my favorite.
Fortnite Battle Royale.
Bring mobile back because my views are going down because mobile's gone. I need y'all to bring it back.
Yeah, if Apple wins, I'm gonna blow my brains out.
Tell the big Giovanni Gonzalez to please bring back mobile.
I'm gonna play Travis Scott. Chill.
Those rascals. The call-in incident was an omen. This wasn't going to be some dry corporate litigation. This was the free Fortnite lawsuit. Addie Robertson, who somehow had the mental fortitude to live tweet almost the entire 3-week trial, described it thusly.
It was complicated. You'd have one day where people are talking about the subtleties of whether the iPhone is like electricity, and then another day where Tim Sweeney just goes off about like the metaverse and his ambitions for Fortnite. We had one morning that was just a very long tutorial for how to use Fortnite from Apple, weirdly enough. Especially in the early trial, it was just a really weird free-for-all where they would just go after completely random directions, like the point where like Epic was worried that Apple was saying that one of its characters was naked if it was a banana that wasn't wearing a suit, and that they were trying to make clear in court that character is not actually graphically naked.
The trial also served as a sort of gossip column for the tech industry, thanks to loads of confidential documents shown as evidence, revealing that Sony wanted money to enable crossplay, and Microsoft got PC streaming app Shadow suspended from the App Store. Oh honey, tea was spilled. But of course, there were some developments that were a bit more on topic and usually made Apple look worse than Epic. For example, Epic thinks Apple can afford to lower the 30% cut, which makes sense given that the iOS App Store made an estimated $50 billion in 2019 and $64 billion in 2020. But the reason those are estimates is because Apple lumps its App Store revenue in with its services revenue. An Apple executive, Phil Schiller, refused to get more specific, telling the court that neither he nor anyone at Apple knows whether the App Store is actually profitable, although they don't deny that it likely is. Okay, Phil. Schiller's testimony seemed even more suspect given internal emails from 2011 where he predicted App Store competition would eventually make Apple lower the default 30% cut, and even suggested they lower it to 20% if they can maintain $1 billion in yearly revenue. Well, I mean, you made it, guys! But Epic faced scrutiny too. Like, why didn't they target the makers of gaming consoles, which are also closed ecosystems that take a 30% cut of all transactions, and they don't even allow sideloading like Android? Epic says, well, consoles often don't actually turn a profit, so that 30% is all they get. And they're gaming-specific devices, while phones are pretty general purpose. What they didn't say is probably closer to the truth, that getting Fortnite banned from consoles would massively hurt Epic's bottom line, and they have better relationships with those companies anyways. Suing your friends usually makes things pretty awkward. Just ask Andrew Garfield from The Social Network.
Your only friend. Yeah, only friend.
Did you see that movie? He was great in Spider-Man. One of my favorite parts of the trial was Am I a Meme Yet? Craig Federighi's testimony.
I don't know anything about what you're talking about.
Epic pointed out that Apple has no problem allowing sideloading on macOS, and in response, Craig threw macOS under the bus, saying there's a level of malware on the Mac that we don't find acceptable. If you use the same system on iOS, it would get run over, even worse than macOS. You see, according to Federighi, the Mac is like a car, capable of being safely navigated through the apocalyptic wasteland of malware on the internet by capable drivers who know the risks. While the iPhone and iPad are devices children, heck, even infants can operate.
Like, yes, this is good because it's a phone for infants.
So capable adults should just accept that their $1,000 phone is basically a Fisher Price.
Which is an argument I feel like it just doesn't make outside this. It is more than willing to talk up the iPhone as being a full-featured work device, and it's like kind of weird to hear it make the argument that the iPhone really should only be used by people who do not want to think about what they're doing with their computing devices.
Stories like this coming out of the trial made Apple look bad in the public eye, but looking bad isn't illegal, unless you show up to my cocktail party in Crocs and a turtleneck. I will press charges. When Judge Rogers finally handed down her verdict on September 10th, 2021, the ruling was described as either a crushing defeat or a resounding victory for either side, depending on which article you read. See, Apple won on all counts, meaning Epic would have to pay millions of dollars for breaching the App Store rules. But Rogers found Apple in violation of California's unfair competition law for its anti-steering rules and ordered Apple to allow developers to put buttons, external links, or other calls to action directing users to payment methods other than Apple's in-app purchasing. You did it, Tim Sweeney! Nice one! Mr. Sweeney? You're not happy about this. The iPhone isn't a PC. It's still an iPhone. As expected, both Epic and Apple appealed the ruling, since a GigaChad corporation doesn't just lay down and accept a split decision because they're not a beta. Okay. Epic did pay Apple what they owed, but Apple requested a stay on the buttons order, which was eventually granted one day before they would have been forced to make changes to the app. Meaning, as of this moment, this trial has directly changed basically nothing. Fortnite is still banned from the App Store, and both parties are now waiting for the next hearing.
Although Fortnite is sort of back on iOS right now, in the form of a closed beta for the touch-controlled version available on the GeForce Now web app.
It has got to be a frustrating situation for Epic, but as many legal experts have pointed out, it's not a surprising outcome, because Epic isn't defending itself from a bear attack. It went up to the bear, asleep in its cave, and jabbed it in the eye.
So Epic comes in with a little bit of that baggage. where they say we had to breach this contract in order to bring this case, and the judge tells them 3 separate times, no, we've got tons of law that says you don't have to breach this contract to claim that the contract's illegal. You can still operate under the contract and have this case. And so when you complain about all these Fortnite players that don't get to play it on iOS, and I tell you, you don't have to breach this contract, you can go back to normal. And also, if you're really worried about Apple stealing your money, we can put that money in escrow, and nobody gets that money until the court case is settled. What do you think, Epic? And Epic says, no! Okay.
To contrast, my boy Hogue brought up Microsoft and Nvidia, who had their game streaming apps for iOS rejected on pretty nebulous grounds. Apparently, it's fine for Netflix to stream a library of movies and shows, but if you're streaming games, each one must be individually listed as App Store titles. Unless you're streaming those same games from your own local Xbox console or PC, that's way different and totally fine. Hey, have you considered an Apple Arcade subscription instead? See, that wrongful rejection case would be a solid one to bring to court. But why go through the trouble when you've got an Epic Games in the mix?
What we've seen instead is that Microsoft is riding piggyback on Epic and saying, well, if Epic wins, that's fine with us because we're putting Game Pass on everything. And if they don't win, we've got our Xbox. And so Microsoft is playing a very strategic game with what they're doing with respect to Epic and playing it either way. But I think they would have been a stronger plaintiff if they wanted to be.
It seems that rather than getting their own hands dirty, bigger companies like Microsoft and Nvidia are perfectly happy to let firebrand Tim Sweeney try to take the world's most profitable company down a bit. Which makes Apple's accusations that Microsoft is the real brains of Epic's operation sound slightly less paranoid. But why is Mr. Sweeney such a perfect character to use for this cage match? The answer isn't his advanced moveset. It's his interesting backstory. As early as 2017, Tim Sweeney was using his company to criticize the 30% cut taken not just by Apple and Google's mobile stores, but by other software platforms like Steam, a critique that was shared by most game developers. And it wasn't all talk either. The Epic Games Store was launched in 2018 with only a fraction of Steam's functionality, but with a default 12% revenue cut, in an obvious attempt to disrupt Valve's dominant position in the PC gaming industry, angering many gamers who actually like having most of their games all in one place, thank you very much, but also exerting pressure on Valve, who lowered their cut of Steam revenue for games already making a lot of money. And we've already said Epic's double lawsuit attack was a weird move, but it wasn't actually its first attempt to disrupt mobile gaming. It initially tried to do the same thing that basically every major game publisher has done on Windows, release their own game launcher as a direct download outside the official App Store. Should be no problem as long as Android is the open source, tinkle-friendly OS it claims to be, right? Yeah. No! According to Epic's legal filings, citing Google's internal documents, Google was so focused on preventing Epic from launching Fortnite outside the Play Store that it formed a Fortnite task force that met daily. Epic says Google pressured OnePlus, LG, and Samsung to back out of deals to pre-install the Epic Games app on their phones, and Google also publicized a security flaw found in the Fortnite Launcher app, even though Epic was already rolling out the fix. Google even considered buying out the smaller companies. Epic had enough. In April 2020, just a few months before the bucketing, they finally gave in and released Fortnite on the Play Store. I mean, at this point, faced with one mobile app store that made it impossible to compete, and another that made it practically impossible, you'd think old Tim would give up.
Always recycle.
Tim would make the iPhone into a PC, even if it meant embarking on one of the most dangerous missions ever attempted by man. Bam!
In July 2020, a document is presented to the Epic Games Board of Directors. It describes Project Liberty, a multi-stage plan to end the anti-competitive 30% tax on the iOS App Store and Google Play Store by embarking on an aggressive and sustained legal and media campaign until platform fees are lowered, apps are allowed to use their own payment platform, or third-party app stores are allowed on mobile. Epic acknowledges they might lose revenue and access to their customers if Fortnite is banned from the app stores, and that Apple and Google's retaliatory PR campaigns could turn players against Epic. But those are all risks Epic was willing to take, because the time is now. But why is the time now?
The thing that mostly I keep coming back to is that whatever Epic's motives, there are a bunch of other companies, other activists and regulators that all have really similar complaints against Apple. Even if you think that Epic is acting completely cynically, it's a case that has relevance to so many parties outside Epic that it's worth paying attention to.
See, the point in time that Epic made their move wasn't arbitrary at all. 2020 had seen a rising wave of antitrust investigations into Google, Apple, and Facebook, and Project Liberty makes it sound like Epic wanted to get ahead of the bandwagon and have a hand in shaping the narrative rather than being at the mercy of some eventual government regulation. The other thing driving Epic to make their move was the hot buzzword of 2021, the metaverse. What is it? Even the people writing an unhealthy amount of articles about it don't know. But Tim Sweeney does. It's the future of Fortnite and a way for Epic to make back some of the shiploads of cash they invested in their game store.
Oh, look, I mean, they want money. Like, obviously, they're a company. They want money. Like, I don't know. I think maybe the most sort of revealing moment is that they were talking about how they want to build Fortnite into a metaverse. And eventually that means they want that metaverse to involve a whole economy that's, like, creator-based, with people paying each other. And if you think that Epic wants to create the social space that comes after the web or the internet, having to give Apple a cut of that is really not good for them.
If you're nerdy enough to be watching this far into the video, you probably know that the term metaverse refers to a persistent virtual universe with interconnected 3D spaces serving as an analog to the real world. But for everyone else, the metaverse is the internet, just deeper. In the future, you'll still interact with the internet through web browsers, apps, and games, but you'll also do it through VR and AR metaverse platforms made by Facebook, I am not calling them Meta, or Apple, or if they get what they want, Epic Games. One could argue the closest thing to a metaverse we have now is the absolute phenomenon Roblox, which is made up entirely of a marketplace of user-generated experiences that they suddenly stopped calling games during Apple and Epic's trial. Because under the App Store rules, games, like Fortnite, can't host a creator marketplace, leading to a very interesting and very subjective debate over what a game even is in the year of our Lord, 2021. Under the current App Store paradigm, 30% of every transaction made by iOS users in Epic's Fortnite metaverse would go to Apple. And that, Epic Games cannot abide. Seeing just how much money is on the line for Epic here makes it easier to understand why they would go to such extreme lengths in a fight against much more powerful opponents. But that once again leads us to the question, is Epic just in this for the money? Do you wait to do what you claim to think is the right thing until it's most advantageous to you?
I think they're marketing their product and their services. They're marketing their personalities and their CEO. And they're also marketing to legislatures to say, hey, look at how this is going. Apple might win on the law as it stands now. It's time to change that law. That might be their end game, because you only need to win in a smattering of jurisdictions to make it very difficult for Apple or Google to operate a unified platform without taking into account these various jurisdictions.
Like I said in my deep dive on Star Citizen, save that one for later if you haven't seen it, no one can truly know anyone else's real motivations. Epic may just be trying to grab all the legendary loot on the map, but the fact remains that they didn't manufacture all that negative sentiment towards Apple and Google's mobile payment duopoly, both from the public and other companies that have been burned by Apple's policies. Email services Proton Mail and Basecamp have criticized Apple's tendency to say they want everyone to play by the same rules, but then make special deals with big companies and block app updates from smaller developers who are using the same non-Apple billing tactics as Netflix. A little company called Floatplane comes to mind. You've got companies like Tile and developers like Costa Eleftheriou who created innovative products that were made obsolete when Apple released their own version. This happens so often there's a word for it, Sherlock. And then you got big boys like Spotify, who filed an antitrust complaint with the EU, called Apple's payment restrictions anti-competitive abuse, and made a whole website dedicated to charting Apple's inability to play fair. Microsoft is also clearly in Epic's camp, copying their 12% cut in the Microsoft Store, and suggesting that governments investigate Apple and Google for antitrust, which is especially rich when you remember that Microsoft narrowly avoided being broken up after it was found guilty of using monopoly power to suppress competition with Internet Explorer in 2001. They must have a short memory. Because a little while ago, they were trying to force Windows users to use Edge once again. See? There's no good guys here! But with so many rooting against Apple, the end game Richard was talking about may be on the horizon. Because even before this case's verdict was handed down, Apple made a number of incremental changes to its App Store. It reduced its App Store cut to 15% for developers making less than $1 million a year, which affects less than 5% of Apple's App Store revenue, but fine. A settlement from a different lawsuit led to Apple allowing developers to email their users about alternative payment options. South Korea passed a law forcing tech platforms to allow third-party payment options in their app stores, and Apple allowed reader apps like Netflix and Spotify to link directly from their app to their website to pay for a subscription, something that they just kind of hinted at before, like, you can't pay here, well, where should I pay? I'm sure you can figure it out. Google has made similar changes before their trial has even begun. They've got their own small business program. They dropped Google Play service fees to 15% for all subscriptions, and even lower for developers who optimize their apps for multiple device form factors, so that, according to Google, 99% of developers qualify for a service fee of 15% or less. Google also complied with South Korea's third-party payments law before Apple did, although they still take a cut, albeit smaller, of Google Play transactions handled by a third party, which is also how Apple is expected to handle it.
Apple's still taking 27% of third-party payments in the Netherlands.
And meanwhile, the slow-turning wheels of government action on antitrust are spinning a bit faster now, with challenges to NVIDIA's acquisition of ARM, which actually may have already been canceled by the time this video comes out. There's also challenges to Facebook/Meta's acquisition of Oculus, and collusion with Google on digital ads popping up alongside proposed bills that would limit the ways big tech can give their own services preferential treatment. So, whether or not Epic ends up directly benefiting from this lawsuit, the winds are changing, and it is still very much the beginning of this fight. Will it end with iOS and Android becoming more like macOS and Windows, but squished into a tinier device? I don't know! There's still the Epic versus Google trial, which honestly Epic probably has a better shot in, since Android is at least supposed to be an open platform. So cheer up, Tim! You might just destroy the abstract concept of an iPhone yet. Keep calm and tinkle on. But you should tinker with your grooming routine using our sponsor, Manscaped. That's right, we got another sponsor for a tech blogger. I don't know how. The Lawnmower 4.0 is the perfect companion for keeping your goods looking trim, neat, and clean. The new wireless charging system removes the need to bring cables with you and is compatible with most Qi charging pads. It features ceramic blades with skin-safe tech, which reduces nicks and cuts, and it's cordless, waterproof, and gets 90 minutes of use on a full charge. Get 20% off plus free international shipping using promo code TECH at the link below. Wow, thanks for watching, guys. Was this one longer? I don't know. I think it might turn out to be longer than the first one. I can't believe they let me make another one. Subscribe to TechLinked. If you want more stuff like this, subscribe to They're Just Movies. It's a movie podcast. I could say Short Circuit, but I won't.
But you did say short circuit. Ha ha ha. Really funny.
Another day at my wage cut job. I can't take it anymore. I'm broke. All my money is gone from crypto and now I have nothing. I guess I'll just have to put up with it for a while and then I can finally start investing again.
Hello Wojak, how is your portfolio going? I've made 60% profit from just last night alone. I'll be a millionaire in no time.
How is that even possible, Zuma? Wasn't every crypto you invested in dumped 100% just 2 days ago? How can you make that much profit? What did you invest in and how did you do it?
All you need to know is about this guy the first watched called Crypto Profit. I'll link you his YouTube channel and just watch his most recent video. We'll be rich in no time.
Straight ahead, low IQ kind of.
Alright, let's see who this person is that Zuma was talking about. Hopefully he will help my current situation.
Okay, armed robbery, here we go. Whew. Here it is. Keep it
Remember, I am not a financial advisor, but I predict that Curry Coin will go to the moon, so I will be heavily investing into it by putting $100,000. I'll see you tomorrow when we're both rich.
Curry Coin to the moon. When I'll wake up in the morning, I'll check my portfolio and can sell my hard profit. Oh my god, Curry Coin really went to the moon. YouTuber was right. From now on I'll watch his videos for financial advice. I can't wait to buy my Lamborghini and tell Zuma.
Bro, I told you crypto profit was gonna make us rich. We're going to be billionaires, oh my god. Just one more profit of a coin and we will be set for life. I can't believe that we're finally gonna make it. All the day and nights trading shitcoins and getting dumped have been worth it. Wojak, we could do whatever we want after this. We have all the money in the world.
You're right, Zuma. Finally, after one more we can be free of trading. We both have lost so much money, but we're making it all back. I'll see you later, Zoomer. I'm gonna be waiting for Crypto Profit to upload.
Hello everybody and congratulations to everyone who followed my prediction and invested into Curry Coin. But remember, I am not a financial advisor, so I recommend doing your own research before doing it yourself. I predict that mini baby Doge will rise at least 50% if not any more. Most of all, remember, I am not a financial advisor. Peace out and good luck for mini baby Doge.
What could go wrong? He was right last time, so this time I'm going all in and betting everything mini baby Doge to the moon.
Mini baby Doge to the moon.
Twitter announcing Elon Musk will join the board of directors, and Elon Musk is tweeting that he looks forward to working with the Twitter team and making changes in the coming months. Cheryl Cassoni with all of the details. That has Twitter stock right now up better than 6%. Cheryl.
Yeah, and up 27% yesterday, Maria. So a couple of things here. Elon Musk, of course, making that statement saying that he is looking forward to working with Twitter, the CEO, the board, to make significant improvements to Twitter in the coming months. Now, we initially learned this news just a few moments ago, breaking on the wires, because of an SEC filing from Twitter that he is going to be joining the board. Right now, he's got a 9.2% stake. This spot on the board that he is taking, it makes him a Class 2 director. That directorship will expire at the end of the 2024 annual meeting summary. But for all of this term and for 90 days after, Musk will not be a, quote, beneficial owner of more than 14.9% of the company. That is key, because that obviously that limits into what his abilities are and his exposure is when he is serving on the board of directors. Now, as for the company right now, as you see, the stock has jumped. All of this, as the only thing we had heard from Elon Musk until a few moments ago, Maria, was a tweet where he put a poll up asking, do you want an edit button? We also heard that the Twitter company, the CEO just a few moments ago saying, quote, Musk is a passionate believer and intense critic of the service, which is exactly what we need on at Twitter. That was a tweet coming from Twitter, and this is the Elon Musk tweet that we're referencing here. Maria, do you want an edit button, yes or no? By the way, a little misspelling on his tweet. I got to point that out, Maria. But again, this is pushing the stock up. As of close yesterday of business, his stake was worth about $3.5 billion, Maria. But again, as you're seeing on your screen, that stake for Elon Musk is now growing exponentially by the moment as the stock now moves higher, almost 7% on this news. Again, all of the speculation going into this breaking news yesterday and today on Twitter and Elon Musk, would he in fact just flat out buy Twitter? Now the question is, because of this new filing from Twitter, is he going to be limited in making any more moves on the company? If you're on the board of directors, are you an activist shareholder? Maria, I'm throwing that out to you.
Yeah, that's right. Well, this is all of the speculation since he amassed that 9.2% stake and has been ripping along trading desks. What are his intentions? What is he going to do? Especially since initially he criticized Twitter. That poll that he asked his users, 80 million users, Do you think Twitter is practicing free speech? Does it follow that principle? And 70% of users say no. Joe Concha, you follow the media and have been spot on the media. Let's talk social media and how this could change the game. Elon Musk saying free speech is essential to a functioning democracy. Asking his 80 million followers, do you believe Twitter rigorously adheres to this principle? And he comes back at them and says, answer this, no, that this is important. 70% said no. Your thoughts on where this is going? Musk cannot own more than 14.9% in this seat on the board. Will he take it all the way up to 14.9%?
Why not? I believe he has the money, Maria, and obviously 9%, 14%, you know, well, what's a couple of billion between friends? Look, I have questions, obviously, when you see something like this, and I think the biggest one is ultimately, what are Elon Musk's intentions here, right? When he's doing these polls, when he's buying up these shares, he's now the biggest shareholder. Is he looking to acquire the company? Will this lead the way for Donald Trump to return to Twitter? Because remember, President Trump started Truth Social. That's falling short, at least as far as the former president's expectations are concerned, to be sure. But either way, the question is correct. Does Twitter censor certain content that is deemed negative towards Democrats or liberals, and something that conservatives obviously have a problem with? Of course, we saw it with Hunter Biden. We've talked about it many times, censoring that story right before the 2020 election, making sure that it didn't get out, locking down accounts, all these things. Elon Musk was sitting back and watching and probably saying, no, this is wrong. It doesn't matter if it's happening to Democrats or Republicans, and it mostly happens to Republicans. This sort of censorship can't continue anymore. And now we'll have to see what sort of fundamental changes happen as a result of Elon Musk being the big power player for the social media giant.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan, we're going to know soon enough. Twitter is appointing Musk to the board as a Class 2 director, with the term expiring at the company's 2024 annual meeting. So 2024 annual meeting is coming, and we'll know in the coming months what Elon Musk's intentions are here. But this was the topic of conversation on trading desks yesterday in terms of where he's going with this and whether or not it's going to mean he gets activists, like Cheryl just suggested. Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I don't think this is an investment. I mean, Twitter's a terrible stock. I mean, it trades at 55 times forward earnings, and it's at the same price it was in 2014. I think this is bona fide. This is just a fight for freedom of speech. Let's be real here. We're going to turn Twitter into Rumble. No, but in all seriousness, I think, you know, bottom line is what I love about Musk is I love his flip-it attitude. I love his libertarian views, and I love the fact he loves to push politicians' buttons, everyone's buttons, and I think this is, you know, really a fight against cancel culture. And I think, you know, cancel culture, the pendulum's starting to swing here. We saw that with Joe Rogan. They really couldn't cancel him when they tried to recently on Spotify. And now I think Musk taking over, and I think absolutely, I mean, we could see the re-platform of our former president, which would be very symbolic in the fight against cancel culture. I think it's awesome. I'm a huge Musk fan, and I do think this is a big win for freedom of speech. And I do think he's going to take a powerful role here in transforming it into a better free speech platform.
Yeah, I mean, this could really, as the Wall Street Journal is reporting this morning, set the stage for a new fight with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Ryan, you say you love the way Musk handles himself. Well, he disclosed the 9.2% holdings in a form investors are required to file when they buy more than 5% of the stock. But again, we learned about it on Twitter. The notice came several days later, the journal writes, and it also did not include a standard certification that disclosed investors' passive stance. The journal writing about this right now, that it could create even more issues in terms of the Securities and Exchange Commission. What you'd like to know?
Boom, and we're live. 12 rules for life. So without reading this, so what you're saying is, that's what I like.
There's only 12 things you need to know in life, right? That's it?
Yeah. This interview that you just did with this woman, Kathy Newman, was that in the UK?
It was Channel 4, UK.
I just went, I felt bad, but I was also laughing. I went to her Twitter page to read, like, and with each one of her tweets, no matter what she says, someone writes underneath it. So what you're saying is, and then some ridiculous, but by the way, your fans were mocking her, but politely, non-aggressively. I didn't read any rude things. Like there was no insults, or there was, well, maybe a few insults, but there's no swears. It was just playful mocking of the interview that she did with you, because the interview was ridiculous. It was a ridiculous interview. I mean, I listened to it or watched it several times. I was like, this is so strange. Like her determination to turn it into a conflict. It's one of the issues that I have with television shows.
Yeah.
Because they have a very limited amount of time, and they're trying to make things as salacious as possible. They want to have these sound bites, these clickbait sound bites, and she just went into it incredibly confrontational, not trying to find your actual perspective, but trying to force you to defend a non-realistic perspective.
Yes, well, I was the hypothetical villain of her imagination, essentially. Yeah. Well, what happened, it was interesting, too, the way it played itself out, because I met her in the green room beforehand. You know, she was being made up, and then they put a little bit of powder on me, and we had a friendly kind of interchange, and then we went and sat in front of the cameras and for a couple of minutes, you know, before the show got rolling. And we had a pretty pleasant back and forth, and then as soon as the cameras went on, she was a completely different person. And I thought, oh, I see what's going on. Yeah, well, so that kind of alerted me to, well, the fact that there was something rotten in the state of Denmark, let's say. Yeah, but, you know, this is also why YouTube is going to kill TV. Because television, by its nature, all of these narrow broadcast technologies, they rely on forcing the story, right? Because it has to happen now. It has to happen in, like, often in 5 minutes, because they only broadcast 5 minutes of that interview. They did put the whole thing up on YouTube.
To their credit.
It hasn't ceased to amaze me yet. I think that they thought that the interview went fine. That's the scuttlebutt I've got from sort of behind the scenes, because I know some people who know what's going on at Channel 4, and they're shell-shocked by the response. You know, and then of course there was the counter response. The Guardian the next day published an article saying that, you know, the head of Channel 4 had to call in police security because of threats. You know, well, first of all, you can call the police in about anything, and they never did detail out exactly what the threats were. You know, but then about 20 newspapers picked that up and went for the, well, Kathy Newman is now being harassed by an army of online trolls for doing nothing but doing her job, which, well, and then there was a backlash against that in the press. So it's been a, well,
someone took an audit of the actual interchanges that, between fans and her, and there was way more negative ones coming your way.
Yes, that were seriously negative. Yeah, that's right.
Seriously negative, violent, harassing, just rude. There were way more.
Yeah.
And no one picked up on that at all. It was all, the narrative was, she's a victim.
Yeah.
Even though she was highly aggressive in this. But
she's a funny victim. It's not like she's not successful.
Yeah.
You know, like at some point you think you should have to hand in your victim card. I think, like, when you go to an Ivy League university, it's like right then and there. You get to hand in. Yeah, because you don't get to be oppressor and oppressed at the same time. That's just too much.
Well, one of the things that you pointed out was when you were talking about competition for very lucrative jobs, and you were saying, look what you've done. Like, you must have had to work here. And she proudly was saying how hard she had to work to get there. I'm like, well, yes, of course. No one's going to hand this to you.
No,
this is why,
not.
And this is why you were saying you are opposed to equality of outcome.
Equality of outcome. I can't imagine anything we could possibly strive for in our society that would make it into hell faster than equality of outcome. Like, the historical evidence for the pathology of that route is so strong. It's like, you have to be historically ignorant beyond belief, or malevolent, or resentful beyond comprehension in order to think that that's a good idea, to argue for that.
I agree with you, but I think that even if you came into this with no knowledge of history, but a complete understanding of human beings, you would say, well, that doesn't make any sense. And one of the best quotes that I've ever read about it is that if you have real, true freedom, you're never going to have equality of outcome. Because with real, true freedom, you have the freedom to not engage. Well, look, if you look at a guy like Jeff Bezos, for instance, that Amazon guy is worth more money than anybody ever, right? That guy works all day.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a maniac.
Oh, yeah.
He's acquiring all these different companies, and everything he's doing is designed to succeed. I mean, he's just
Well, that's what
fanatical
Gates just
about
said,
it.
too, in a recent interview. And I know some guys that are, you know, they're in approximately the same universe as those two, and they just work all the time.
That's all they do.
the time.
Yeah.
And they don't just work. They work so efficiently and so effectively and make use of every second in ways you can't even imagine unless you're in that sort of position. So, and, you know, doing that doesn't mean that you will succeed, but not doing it certainly means that you will fail.
Well, not doing it certainly means you will never achieve that level of success, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about equality of outcome.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to work like that. I don't want to do what he's doing, and I should have the freedom to not do that.
Yeah.
As he should have the freedom to do that. If we're going to play this game called capitalism, which we're all agreeing is probably, at least in as far as the models that we have right now, is the best one that we have. If we're all going to play this game, if someone decides to be the Michael Jordan of capitalism, you can't stop them. You can't say, no, you're playing this game too well. You're playing this game too hard. You're too obsessed with this game. You're going to have that.
Yeah, you can stop them. You can try to stop people from winning crookedly,
Yes.
which is what you should do. And,
Yes.
you know, there's a couple of things that are really worth delving into with regards to that, too, because there's this sort of Marxist notion that all this inequality is generated as a consequence of capitalism. And that's actually technically false. Because if you look at, there seems to be something like a law of nature that's described by this statistical model called the Pareto distribution. And it basically suggests that in any creative domain, there's going to be a small number of people who will do almost all of the output. But it doesn't just apply to human beings. It applies to the heights of trees in the Amazon rainforest. It applies to the size of cities, and it applies to the mass of stars, and it's something like the more you have, the more you get. It's something, you can imagine how that would work with a star. As it gets bigger and bigger and its gravitational mass increases, it's going to attract more and more matter. And then as a city grows, well, more and more people are excited to move there because of all the opportunities, and so some cities start to grow tremendously and others don't. But this phenomena where a small number of people end up controlling a tremendous proportion of the resource is not only limited to money, and it doesn't only occur in capitalist societies, it occurs everywhere. It's like a natural law. So you see the same thing with number of points scored by a spectacular sports figure. There's always a tiny proportion of people who are way ahead on the curve, or people who make records, or people who sell paintings, or people who compose music, or people who sell music online. It's all the same. It's the 1% gets 80%. And so, well, first, we can't blame that on capitalism. And second, we should note that it actually does constitute a problem, which is what the left-wingers are always jumping up and down about, right? Like, too much inequality starts to destabilize your society. And it isn't obvious how to shovel money from the top end,
All right, Jordan
to 1/10
Peterson.
of 1% who have almost
All
all
right.
the
We're going to listen to something else.
A Republican congressman has claimed that sex orgies and drug parties are rife all over Washington and is therefore facing a huge backlash. But why should we find it difficult to believe that there's saucy behaviour in Washington when we know what actually does go on? Hello there, you 5.4 million awakening wonders. We continue to convey to you as best we can the truth as we individually and collectively awaken. Today we're going to be discussing a very salacious, saucy story about drugs and sex and politics. The last bit made me nearly feel sick. But what interests me mostly is that I suppose the implication is that there's a moral corruption at play. Because really, sex between consenting people, whose business is it? But, the people involved. We're going to get into that story in just a minute. First, I want to tell you that I'm on tour all over the UK. There's a few tickets left. Click on the link in the description. And please sign up to our mailing list because we've got some fantastic projects coming up. Live shows, live experiences, stream stuff that you are going to love. And you never know when we might lose the ability to communicate with you. So please, for heaven's sake, sign up to my mailing list. Now let's see what these saucy pussybuggers in Washington are doing with their time. Do we believe them or not? Does it matter? Do you trust politicians? Do you care what they do in their private lives? Let me know in the comments below, and let's get into the news.
This morning, Republican Congressman Madison Cawthorn.
Well, firstly, he's gorgeous. That's like normal politicians, doesn't he? Like he's like a swimwear model.
Under fire from members in his own party after presumably linking GOP lawmakers to sex parties and cocaine.
If he is telling the truth, that's sort of amazing, isn't it, that they're having sex parties? I mean, some of you that are more into the esoteric side of what goes on in politics have some pretty outlandish ideas about the things that happen behind closed doors and won't be surprised to hear this. Maybe he's lying. That's even more mad. Yeah, I've got a lot of sex parties. I'm always being invited to them. Do you? No. North Carolina Republican Congressman Madison Cawthorn has issued a statement following his controversial comments in which he claimed that he's been invited to an orgy. Come over here. I was invited to an orgy the other day. Plenty of people are pretty attracted to me. Did they? No. And he's seen anti-drug advocates do cocaine. I suppose what's behind an accusation like that is the idea of hypocrisy. Now, obviously, we don't know if there are sex and drug parties all over Washington, but you know, probably there are. There seems to be everywhere in the world. That sort of stuff seems to go on. What's more interesting, to me at least, is the idea that lawmakers and people that take a moral stance on that kind of behaviour actually engage in that behaviour. And what's even more interesting is that there are things that are explicitly and overtly understood and known by us, but in my opinion, are much worse than what people do with their own bodies for pleasure. An interesting comparison from our country, the UK, where I live, is that all the while during lockdown, while people were confined to their homes under pain of death and fear of shame, the Conservative Party that run our country, the equivalent, I suppose, of your Republican Party, they were having parties almost literally every day. The only thing that mitigated it was their parties were really shit, with old cheese, pistols, and wearing Santa Claus hats. Let's go, we're having a party. So, yeah, maybe they are doing that in Washington. I just hope the parties are a bit cooler.
Then all of a sudden you get invited to, like, oh, hey, we're going to have kind of a sexual get-together at one of our homes. You should come, man. What did you just ask me to come to?
We are having a sexual get-together at one of our homes. RSVP. And choose what you like and see.
And then you realize they're asking you to come to an orgy. Or the fact that, you know, there's some of the people that are leading on the movement to try and remove, you know, addiction in our country. And you watch them do, you know, keep up with cocaine right in front of you.
He's too young to be in politics anyway. How old is he? That's what I'm worried about. No wonder they can't resist him. He's gorgeous.
Cawthorn is the youngest member of Congress, seen as a rising star in the party. Loyal Trump supporter who spoke at that rally on January 6th.
My friends, I will tell you right now that there is a new Republican Party rising.
And it's very sexy.
But now Republicans say...
An interesting side note is that microphone coming out of his head. Makes him look like a little ant.
But now Republicans say he has crossed the line.
I think you crossed the line.
House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy summoned Cawthorn to his office to tell him his comments were unacceptable.
Those comments were unacceptable. God, I'm wearing a new perfume. Just, would you like a quick... Oh, I can't help myself. How can I stay mad at you?
He's lost my trust. He's going to have to earn it back. He's got a lot of members very upset.
You think so too, if you accuse people of having orgies and cocaine parties. It is irritating, but again, all of us are drawn to these kind of salacious sex and drug stories, but really what we should be interested in is the behaviour of the powerful and the way that Congress and its inhabitants continually operate and the financial impropriety that defines that institution.
McCarthy telling reporters Cawthorn had no evidence and did not tell the truth.
He's got no evidence. You. And anyway, aside from that, he did not tell the truth. And maybe though he hasn't got any evidence.
Sources say Cawthorn was asked to publicly apologize. Overnight, he claims his comments were taken out of context.
When I said that there are orgies and sex parties, I meant all over the world and in films I've seen, like Oliver Stone's film, The Doors, and Wolf of Wall Street.
Congressman Nels, what did you make of those comments?
Oh. The cliche that politicians are cigar-smoking fat cats sickens me. I'm holding this for a friend. Madison! How can I stay mad at you?
Irresponsible. Irresponsible.
Irresponsible. That's ruining all the sex parties. And also, his accusations of we're in cahoots with the tobacco lobby pisses me off too. Right, guys?
But all of it has left his Republican colleagues on Capitol Hill frustrated.
I just think it puts us in bad light.
Yeah, it does. That's not very nice. Don't say that about our sex parties. We're trying our hardest to keep them secret.
What he's saying can't possibly be true.
Not for you, mate. They're not inviting you.
What he's saying can't possibly be true.
If they're a sex party, I didn't know about it. You think they want to miss this piece of ass? You think they want to miss this? Huh?
Cawthorn still has one big name in his corner, Donald Trump. The former president announced Cawthorn will be a special guest at his rally in North Carolina.
Now, look, that's all a frivolous piece of fun, and we all enjoyed having a laugh about that, but these are some things that are literally, definitely, and actually, I believe, legally happening in Congress right now. So this is not an accusation of impropriety. This is a list of systemic problems. Check it out. Hundreds of millions of dollars were exchanged on the stock market by elected officials in 2021 alone. Nothing else was going on in 2021, though. It's not like the whole world was banged up in their houses, quivering shipwrecks, terrified to move. In just equities, Congress bought and sold nearly $290 million throughout the year. Do you want that happening? Do you want elected officials trading? Do you not think that that might mean that regulation and legislation gets biased in the favor of those kind of interests? In 2021, only 3 hedge funds beat the market. But in Congress, 35 politicians did even better. Hedge funds that are set up entirely for investment cannot perform at the rate of Congress people. That, in my opinion, seems like evidence of some kind of corruption, collaboration, and I don't want to use insider trading, that's an actual legal term. But it seems like they know stuff that the best hedge funds in the world don't know. Big legislative events, such as the infrastructure bill getting passed by the Senate, were often preceded by politicians trading in the sectors affected, which points to insider knowledge, doesn't it? Some politicians held securities in the sectors they vocally expressed support for, such as senators holding cryptocurrencies while drafting crypto regulation. I, for example, would like to see cigar companies promoted to the forefront. Madison! How can I stay mad at you? As the pandemic raged, at least 75 lawmakers bought and sold stock in companies that make COVID-19 vaccines, treatments, and tests. At a historic time, during an unprecedented crisis that brought about much division, debate, censorship, discombobulation, doubt, and debate, politicians were investing in companies that make COVID-19 vaccines, treatments, and tests. Do you want that? I'd rather they had orgies. That's how it works, as long as everyone's consenting. Crack on, enjoy yourselves, go crazy. But I don't want them mandating certain procedures and then profiting from it. Do you? 18 senators or their households own stock in big tech companies valued at a minimum of $9.9 million and a maximum of $24.6 million, which is a problem if you're regulating those companies. 51 members of Congress and their spouses own up to $5.8 million worth of defense contractor stocks, which is a problem if you're advocating publicly for military action. Prior to the invasion of Ukraine, members of Congress purchased defense and energy stocks, which makes it look like they're using their position not for what's best for America or Ukraine, as they publicly say, but what's best for them as individuals financially. Many are on committees privy to private information, including defense and energy, so surely you should be allowed to invest in those companies. These are systemic problems that could be changed like that, overnight with a stroke of a pen. They're not allowed to invest, they're not allowed to profit from it. Overnight, you would get a more reliable government. I'm not saying that it's wrong to have a stock exchange or whatever, that's a more complicated and sort of deeper conversation. What I'm saying is that people in those positions shouldn't benefit from it because their focus is meant to be benefiting the ordinary people of America or whatever company, do an easy mistake to make, country they're supposed to be governing. The typical US Congress member is 12 times richer than the typical American household. Would you rather have juries, assemblies elected from ordinary families, from ordinary Americans? Wouldn't that be fairer? Wouldn't that be better? Tell me in the comments below. More than half of those in Congress are millionaires. Nothing wrong with making a few quid, you could argue. But do you want Congress peopled by one demographic that have one set of cohesive, collaborative interests? At least 78 members of the House disclosed that their spouses own corporate securities. And that's before we get into the dependent child. Dependent child. 37 members of Congress failed to properly report their financial trades. Did you report your financial trade? Yes, I did. Did you do it properly? Yes, I did. To Madison as an orgy. The pages are all stuck together. Madison, How can I stay mad at you? So of course what we've got there is a fantastic, funny story about salaciousness. Drugs are of course illegal and no one would ever endorse drugs. I certainly wouldn't. Orgies, I guess that's a moral, personal decision for people that are involved in that kind of world. But neither of those things, in my opinion, are as important as systemic corruption. And if it's not corruption, let's call it what it really is, unaddressed crime, institutionalized crime, crime that is allowed because it's not illegal by the letter of the law, but by the spirit of the law. Is this how you want your country run? Can you not see a connection between the lives you're living, the suffering you're enduring, the social breakdown that you're witnessing, and having corrupt leaders that are profiting in the ways that we've just described in that video? Maybe it doesn't bother you. Let me know in the comments below, because I think this is a bipartisan issue. This is an institutional problem. Forget left, forget right. Let's get down the middle, bringing about systems, cultures, nations and a world that we can all participate in. I'm not talking about a centralised technocratic democracy. I am 100% against that. Localised democracy for the people, by the people, like it says in your constitution. That's just what I think, though, and what the constitution says. Let me know in the comments below what you think. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at this one or this one. Give us a thumbs up. Only half of you subscribe. Subscribe now. It really helps us if you subscribe to our channel. If you're not a member of my mailing list community yet, sign up so we can reach you at any time. I can tell you all the exciting live and streaming stuff that I'm doing. Come and see me live if you want. There's a link just below in the description. More important than any of that, though, please stay free. Facebook and big tech giants are placing digital products in your kids' schools to help them, obviously. And if you think there's some other reason of motivation, you're obviously some sort of conspiracy theorist. Hello there, you 5.3 million awakening wonders. Welcome to our channel, where we'll do our best to analyse the news and give you information as truthfully as we can within our own limitations, in order that we can have a discourse, a discussion, a chat to brighten the light within and brighten the light without, to walk this path together, awakening in harmony against the forces that want to keep you in the dark. You know the drill by now, surely. If you want to come and see me live, I'm appearing all over the UK, places like Plymouth, Bristol, Carlisle. If you want to come, there's a link in the description. I do meditation, questions and answers. It's a crazy, wonderful, beautiful experience in a beautiful country with wonderful people. You'll love it. Now, let's get down to today's business. You know Facebook? Yeah, I've heard of them. You know Big Tech? Oh yeah, they're dominating my life and manipulating my behaviour right now, and ironically we're on a Big Tech platform right this minute. Yeah, right, those guys. They're putting their digital products into your kids' schools. Why? Well, as is always the case, they sort of package it and present it as, we're just here to help the children, we're here to help them with our digital product. So just let's make sure that all this help doesn't somehow rattle its way around the old pinball machine of life and lead to profit and data capture. Fingers crossed, eh? In June 2021, as students and teachers were finishing up a difficult school year, Priscilla Chan, wife of Facebook founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg, made a virtual appearance on the Today Show, announcing that the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, CZI, along with its partner, Gradient Learning, was launching a new digital tool to help students and teachers create meaningful connections in the aftermath of the pandemic. When we say things like the mainstream media are complicit in the relationship between big tech and big business, they'll say stuff like that. I'm not Ron, I'm always saying, oh, the mainstream media. And then people go, that's conspiracy theory. Well then, why is Zuckerberg's wife being invited on the Today Show to soft sell this program to you lot? Oh, it's lovely, isn't it? Help children. That's not correct of her. That's not in there. It's help children. I don't know how she speaks over Today's Show. Because the mainstream media are complicit in easing this into your life. What should be happening on the TV is people going, hold on a second, what are you going to do with that data when you've got it? Once you've given for free this thing to help with their mental health and all that stuff that you're saying, what's going to happen to the data down the line? Are you going to, will ownership be retained by the schools and the individuals? Oh, I don't know, I don't think about that. We just let them, those boffins and spectacles handle that stuff. Get a boffin in here then. Right, you, what happens? Why are you being so aggressive? Because I'm trying to change the world and it's killing me. Now tell me, what happens to the data? We were going to sell it to market it. Right, get out. You and all, out. Next up, Anderson Cooper, who's going to make the war seem like a much more appealing thing and necessary and something that doesn't need to be discussed. According to CZI and Gradient Learning, the science of along shows that students who form deep connections with teachers are more likely to be successful in school and less likely to show disruptive behaviours. Oh, what, like standing up to authority, asking questions, not being blindly obedient? I mean, who would query the idea that good connections with your teachers aids learning? You remember from your own life, those teachers that maybe took a little bit of time with you, told you that they believed in you, took time to help you over many bumps and curves in the road that education presents you, and also the teachers that were indifferent and stuff. Now, for me, that's literally almost, I'm going to say, a sacred relationship, mentorship, guruship. We all know already that schools primarily exist to prepare your children for the labour market, don't they? It's not like schools are going to package you up with skills. They're under so much pressure under there. Teachers, along with anyone who works for the public, nurses, people in the military, police, like, you know, people that are doing things for the right reasons, I admire them and respect them. But school, if you look at the model, is primarily to instill in your children notions of conformity and to prepare them to compete in the labour market. You better crush down your individuality a little bit, don't ask too many questions, and if you do, put your hand up. What we need to do is de-school ourselves, not supplement our current schooling system with the phenomenal ability to weaponise data and manipulate behaviour that we all know by now is intertwined with the digital giants' many models. CZI is one of many technology companies that have created software products that claim to address the social and emotional needs of children. And school districts appear to be rapidly adopting these products to help integrate the social and emotional skills of students into the school curriculum, a practice commonly called social emotional learning. Now, anyone who knows anything about public schooling knows that these places are under incredible financial pressure. They're understaffed, they don't have enough money, they're operating under bureaucratic restrictions that make their jobs even harder. So if some corporate partner offers them a little bit of assistance, don't you remember from your own school things like where there was like Coke machines installed in school? Like, look at that now. Why is there a Coke machine in your school? I thought it was the best thing that ever happened. Hey, Coke machine in the school, this is the best day of my life. And here's a cigarette vending machine, and here's a drug dealer. Not you now, till you're 30. Have a nice life. Panorama Education, whose financial backers also include CZI as well as other Silicon Valley venture capitalists. Our old friends, the venture capitalists, such as the Emerson Collective, founded by Laurene Powell Jobs, the widow of Apple co-founder Steve Jobs. So what we like about Steve Jobs, the dude knew how to run a business. Markets a survey application for collecting data on students' social emotional state that is used by 23,000 schools, serving a quarter of the nation's students, according to TechCrunch. Wow, so that's a quarter of all humans are sort of being pooled into one huge data capture resource. We're here at social media market in this funnel metaphor.
Data capture.
The mouth of the funnel is where they capture folk, and down the funnel you either pay money or you get strapped up with products or whatever. So this funnel now is capturing people when they're very young. If you're my age, and I am, you'll remember that at school, there was a bit when you're about 15 or whatever, where they sent all the banks in. What do banks do at school? Well, you can start a bank account, write a passage, initiation. Oh, I thought write of initiation was to instruct me as to what my duties would be now that I'm an adult, the obligations, let go shoulders. No, sign up with this bank. Because they know that once you sign up to a bank, you'll probably be with them for the rest of your life. I bet there's people watching this right now that had banks coming to their school, you're still with that. We've got our mortgage there, we've got loads of them. Because they know you can't be bothered to move banks, because they've made it so hard to move banks. Like the days we go, I'm sick of calling this call centre, I'm moving banks. Right, I'm moving banks. Press 1 if you want to move banks. 1. Press 3 if you've got the willpower to sit through an hour and a half of this bullshit. 3, I will do it. Totally. Alright, I'll stay with the bank till I'm dead. That's more like it. Gaggle was using students' Google and Microsoft accounts to scan keywords and collect social emotional related data. It's contract with at least 1,500 school districts education week report. Well, that's not worrying, is it, that they're scanning the social emotional related data. Do you see how these tools could be used to make the world a better place? Like, any of you that got kids, if you hear your kids say, oh, I'm scared, this thing happened to me at school today, oh my God, the idea that there are resources available to make a better world, but we're unable to utilise them, to unchain the beast, because it's all being dragged in the direction of relentless, unregulated profiteering. I don't even think they're evil. I think it is more like incompetence. Before the pandemic temporarily shuttered school buildings, the demand for tracking what students do while they're online was mostly driven by desires to prevent bullying and school cheating. Right, we've got to protect you. We've got to protect you from bullying and other nefarious conduct. Right, we protect you now, here's your fucking money. Tech companies that make and market these popular software products claim to alert schools of any troubling social or emotional behaviour students might exhibit when they're online, so that educators can intervene. That's spying on children. Vice reports. But there is, however, no independent research that backs up these claims. There's no independent research. We're doing that, well, kids and that, for the bullying. Can you back that up with independent research? No, there isn't any. Why is that? Because any independent research would probably reveal our true motivations, which are financial, given that we're a business. Thanks for your honesty. COVID-19 and its associated school closures led to even more concerns about students' anxiety, depression, and other serious mental health concerns. Now, a lot of us were trying to talk about that stuff at the time, the kind of problems that would come about as a result of lockdown, not to diminish the other medical emergencies that were taking place, but to be mindful of a holistic picture that includes mental health. I'm not claiming there's a conspiracy to deliberately create anxious and fearful states, but I am saying that it is advantageous to the powerful if large numbers of people are compliant due to their fear and anxiety. A major focus of CZI's investment in education is its partnership with Summit Public Schools to co-build the Summit Learning Platform to be shared with schools across the US. Since 2015, CZI has invested more than $280 million in developing the Summit Learning Program, an enticement that education technology companies are using to get schools to adopt along and other student monitoring products is to offer these products for free, at least for a trial period or for longer term, depending on the level of service. But free doesn't mean without cost, which is what free sort of meant to me, isn't it? And you can see how the pre-existing model operated. We all use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever platforms for free, but we are giving them the product. The product is us, our behaviour, our focus, our attention, our very lives is the product, and that's being introduced into schools. My sense is that CZI, a big tech-sponsored foundation, is unlikely to invest more than $280 million, and indeed would not have $280 million were there not the opportunity for more power, authority, and profit down the road. As CZI funds and collaborates with its non-profit partners to expand the scope of student monitoring software in schools, Facebook, aka Meta, is actively working to recruit and retain young users on its Facebook and Instagram applications. When I talk about regulating Facebook, I'm not talking about regulating your use of Facebook and so you can't say stuff in free speech. I'm talking about regulating Facebook's ability to make profit and ensuring that it's regarded as a kind of public resource and it literally is fed back into communities. I mean, that $280 million like to develop the Summit Learning Program, would you rather see that in schools, setting up programs that help behaviour, meditation, various other techniques that help your kids, activities for your kids? You don't believe that that would ultimately be more helpful than monitoring all the time, turning it essentially into data, all their funded data? CZI's success at getting schools to adopt along might
aluminium.
Yeah, my day. Facebook is highly invested in creating commercial products for younger users, including an Instagram Kids application intended for children who are under 13 years. While Facebook executives discuss the known harms of their products on screens, they nevertheless forged ahead, ignoring suggestions from researchers on ways to reduce the harm. Hey, we could maybe reduce the harm. Shut up, I'm busy. Look, you know already, because you've seen the same documentaries I've seen, that the people that are CEOs and high-up developers in these organizations don't let their kids look at that stuff. The information gathered from SEL applications such as Along will likely be used to build out the data infrastructure that generates knowledge used to make behavioural predictions. This information is valuable to corporations seeking a competitive edge in developing technology products for young users. So what they'll say is, look, we've given you this stuff for nothing. This is going to help stop you self-harming or taking their own lives or, eating bad or whatever. Oh, look, we've got all of this information. We own it now. Here's a suggestion. If they do want to do that for free, how about introduce this into the contract? The data belongs to the school. The data belongs to the individual. You can't bundle it up and sell it on to corporate and marketing partners down the line. And then if they're still interested in doing it, thanks for the kindness. Schools provide a useful testing ground to experiment with ways to hold the attention of children. Good old schools. A nice learning ground to experiment on children. Hold the attention of children, develop nudges. Develop a nudge for a child. Go that. Kill. What did it do when you nudged it? It cried. Kleenex, we've got another customer. And elicit desirable behavioural responses. All right, children, don't worry, apples will deep down in the old soul. What these tech companies learn from students using their SEL platforms could be shared with their own product developers and other companies developing commercial products for children, including social media applications. Yet Facebook's own internal research confirms social media is negatively associated with teen mental health. Can you find a way of making it that this negative association with teen mental health becomes better? No, because it does have a negative impact on teen mental health. So could you say it's good for parents? I mean, a depressed child probably will want to go to bed early, maybe. And this association is strongest for those who are already vulnerable, such as teens with pre-existing mental health conditions. Although Facebook claimed it was putting the Instagram Kid app on hold in September 2021, a November 2021 study suggests the company continues to harvest data on children. There are legislative restrictions governing the collection and use of student data. Unfortunately, if a contract with a school or district designates that business a school official, the child data can be extracted by the business, leaving the responsibility to obtain consent with the school district. So basically, they found a way around it. Remember, I suppose that's why it's become so important to demonstrate morality in superficial visual ways, through signs, symbols, and signifiers. Because actual morality, actual ethical conduct, is just disappearing without trace. All people will do is like, oh shit, what, children are protected, are they? Yeah, you've got to protect children, you can't harvest their data. Can't we just like appoint the school official? Oh yeah, if you did that, you could do it. Would it be wrong to charge the children? No, yeah, just give them the stuff for free, but then you own the data. I mean, everything is about avoiding morality without the appearance of avoiding morality, rather than just being moral. The connections between the Along platform and corporate technology giant Facebook are a good example of how these companies can operate in schools while maintaining their right to use personal information of children for their own business purposes. I suppose what that paragraph means is that Facebook and CGI and the Along platform aren't necessarily affiliated because of the nature of the funding. They're a composite entity when it comes to the fund. But to avoid the kind of regulation that would be levelled at Facebook, because it's immoral for Facebook to capture the data of children, then to use that data to market, like, I don't know, antidepressants to them in a couple of years when they know that they're depressed. What you have to do is create subsidiaries. And because of the scale, the economic scale, and the capacity of Facebook, they can create sub-entities in order to facilitate that. And that is precisely what they've done, and that's precisely how they're getting into your children's schools. Schools are commonly understood to be places where children can make mistakes, not fucking school, and express their emotions, say, without their actions and expressions being used for profit, and school leaders are customarily charged with the responsibility to protect children from any kind of exploitation. Digital SEL products, including Along, may be changing those expectations. It seems to me that they found a way to capture children's information without being exposed to the negative publicity that such a mendacious act would surely expose them to. But that is just what I think. Why don't you let me know in the comments below what you think about what this suggests about our moral culture, about where we're heading, about the amount of power that we're continually handing over to big tech because of their enormous capacities, because of their ingenuity. Can you see how the vulnerability and fallibility of your kids is now becoming commodified? Even their sadness is an opportunity for profit. Is that the world you want to live in? Hit me up in the comments below. Give this video a like. Subscribe to our channel. Remember, only 48% of you subscribe. If you all subscribe, evidently, it gives us more power. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at this one or this one on similar themes. Sign up to my mailing list so I can stay in direct communication with you. It's very important that I'm able to do that. And if you're in the UK, come see me live. Carlisle, Plymouth, Bristol, Glasgow, all over this beautiful country. Most importantly of all, though, if you can, stay free.
Boom, and we're live. Russell, why is it that when people start...
Hey, Wojak, have you heard that Mooner sold all of his Shiba Inu for another token?
What? No way. He said that Shiba Inu would go to the moon and provide guaranteed financial freedom without any risks.
I know, right? I don't know what got into him. He sold all of his Shiba Inu for a token called Everrise.
What is Everrise?
I don't know yet. Let me call Mooner to come over here and explain Everrise so we can understand why he would sell a risk-free investment like Shiba Inu for something else.
Yeah, let's do that.
Hey, Mooner, can you come over here and explain Everrise to Wojak and me?
Absolutely. This investment will make Shiba Inu look like a shitcoin. I will come to you so I can explain it.
How is that possible? Shiba Inu is the best token on the market because the logo is a dog. Hi Zoomer and Wojak. You wanted to know more about Everrise, right?
Yes. Why did you sell your Shiba Inu? You said it's like the next Bitcoin.
Yes, I did say that, but I changed my mind when I saw a random tweet. Utility is the new thing. In 5 years, when crypto is widely adopted, meme coins will die and only the tokens with real utility will survive.
Okay, that sounds logical. What is the utility of Everrise then?
Everrise is a blockchain technology company focused on increasing accessibility to DeFi by bringing security and multi-chain...
That's more than enough for me. I am going to buy Everrise as soon as I am home from work. Okay, let's take a look at Everrise. Wow, this is actually a good investment. They have so many apps that solve problems I did not even realize existed in the crypto space. Let's look at the market cap. I hope it's not as high as Shiba Inu. They are on 5 different blockchains and have over 50% of the circulating tokens staked. I can't believe it. And they only have a $64 million market cap. If I invest $2,000 into this and it reaches the same market cap as Shiba Inu, I will have $500,000. Okay, let's do it. This is the best investment ever. I can't wait for the price to go up. Let's go to sleep. Wow, is this real? If this is true, I'm a millionaire. I can't believe it. Why are you still at work? Haven't you heard about the recent Everrise price increase? It went to the moon.
I looked it up, but I couldn't find a picture of a dog, so I didn't invest.
Well, that's not a smart investment strategy, mate.
Hello Wojak, I hope you have finished what I asked you. It's been 1 hour and I still don't have the papers. You are going to move your ass or I will have to find someone else.
Yes, boss. It's soon finished. Apologize for the delay, but my computer is not working properly.
I don't care. Excuses are not welcome here. You better finish in 15 minutes.
Yes, sorry, boss. It will be done.
Perfect. This is what I want to hear. Have a nice day.
Stupid scumbag. Someone has to get me out of this scrap life, I swear. What's up, Zuma? Be quick because I'm at the office.
Hello, Wojak. I'm calling you because we have sad news. Our grandma passed away and we are invited to her funerals. It will be this afternoon, so join me in about 1 hour. Oh, and by the way, she left us $50 million each.
Are you kidding me?
I don't know where this comes from, but you can leave your job now. See you.
This is impossible. How is Grandma supposed to have that much money? It's sad she left. Let's quit this place real quick. Hello, son of a bitch. You can go fuck yourself. I'm out of this garbage job. See you.
1 hour later.
She will be missed, but we still don't know how she did to make so much. Was she selling illegal stuff?
I don't know, but we just became rich. Our lives are going to change thanks to Grandma.
Yes, what an incredible lady. I wonder where she is now. Maybe she is watching us. What's for sure is that I'm not going to buy more than one Lamborghini because otherwise it would be too much disrespectful.
I think I will invest everything into the stock market and live with the dividends. Let's see this later.
The next day.
Okay, now that I have 50 millions, I must invest it somewhere. I think I will start with some penny stocks on the Paris Stock Exchange. It is active at the moment. Penny stocks have a higher return because they are low market cap and low volume. Let's check what I can buy. This one looks promising. It is a lithium research company located 200 kilometers near Tesla factories. It is without any doubt that this company will pump over time. Let's connect on my trading platform and put 50 million straight on the position. Let's go. I'm going to set a limit price of 48 cents, with a quantity of 93,135 shares for a total of $50 million. This is it, my brother. Let's look how much the price will increase now.
The next day.
Let's check the graph. Are you for real? I just made 250 millions by purchasing a penny stock. Let's sell and repeat the process. If I can manipulate the market, so will I. Let's do some great pump and dumps. This is too good to be true. What am I going to do with all this money? Being a manipulator is incredible.
Yes?
Bogdanov, Ojak de Gamma Market Manipulator wie Purchasing Shitstock. Started making une bande neutrale de Timoitou en e-autorisation. Venez tout stop tout damage ou reputation.
Even past the limits. Log on the account and then push the exposition to the floor.
Damn, it's only half of the month and I don't have much money.
Whoa, Jack, come over here, please.
Hello, boss, did you ask to see me?
Yes, son. We are low on employees on the weekend. Are you in this weekend?
Okay, boss, I can do it this weekend.
Very good, Wagey. I mean, Wojak. Wojak, are you in this weekend?
Okay, boss.
Wojak, are you in this weekend?
Okay, boss.
Wojak, are you in this weekend?
Okay, boss.
Wojak, are you in this weekend?
I can't do this weekend. Sorry, boss.
You can't stay all weekends at home, Wagey. I mean, Wojak.
But boss, I was here every weekend for past few months. I really need to rest.
I understand, Wagey, but remember that you only have temporary contracts here. Don't you want to get permanent one?
Of course I do. I'm working very hard to make it happen, and I know that after a year of hard work I will get the permanent contract, boss.
So, are you in this weekend?
Yes, boss, I will be here next weekend.
Good.
1 eternity later.
Excuse me, boss. I have been here every weekend for months. Could we maybe talk about a pay raise for me?
I'm sorry, Wojak, but our company has so much expenses at the moment we cannot give you pay raise just now.
I understand, boss. Maybe next time. All this hard work and I can't even have a pay raise. Hopefully I will have to rest a bit after work at home. I will ask about a pay rise tomorrow.
Here we go!
The next day.
Today is my big day. I will ask for a pay raise and hopefully I will get something so I can fix my car and don't take train every day. Wow, what a car. It must have cost fortune. I wonder whose car is it?
Hello, Wojak.
Hello, boss. I know that company had big expenses and that's why I could not get a pay raise.
That's true, son. This car has nothing to do with the expenses. You see, I need to have transportation to work, don't I?
Will I get a pay raise, boss?
It would be great, but unfortunately we have enormous expenses now at the company and we need to hire temporary workers. I'm sorry, Wojak, but you need to find a new job because you are fired.
Oh no, you didn't.
Two days ago. I will invest into volcano mining. I'm now the owner of the plot. It's working. I'm making 7 bitcoins a day. Finances are doing great. I currently sits at $12.5 million. My Bitcoin volcano mining is working at a sensational rate. I remember myself working at McDonald's like a loser. Now I have enough cash to buy the restaurant and its employees itself. What a time to be alive. But I'm going to push things even further. I will start mining Bitcoin in the stratosphere thanks to the magnetic field of the Earth. The plan is to send Bitcoin mining rigs into the geostationary orbit so that they can use the magnetic field to get power and mine at monster hash rate while staying connected to the internet. I'm going to release the rigs thanks to the rockets of SpaceX. And of course, I will plug solar panels for the batteries and sun liquid refreshing for the heat. Let me call my contact to arrange a meeting with Elon Musk. Hi, I would like to meet Elon. I can pay $2 million for this meeting if needed. Could you arrange this?
Yes, no problem. I will schedule the meeting. You can send the payment on my Bitcoin address. You will see him in 2 days.
Perfect. Thank you.
2 days later.
Hi Elon. So I need your rockets to launch my Bitcoin mining rigs in orbit. I will mine Bitcoin efficiently at zero cost. This is always what you have dreamed of. You will of course have a part of the total hash rate and I will make sure to take care of all the details. I have $10 million available right now.
Thanks for proposing the idea, Wojak. It seems promising and great for the energy consumption. I will get in touch with the team and prepare a rocket next week. You will be sent in space with the miners and then you will release them into orbit.
Perfect. Thanks a lot guys for this meeting and see you in a week.
1 week later.
This is absolutely incredible. I will soon launch in space with the mining rigs and release them to mine even faster. Mum would be so proud of me. I went from selling burgers to mining astronaut in no time. Okay, a last view of the Earth before I take off. We are about to launch. Let's do this. Always believe in yourself. Balls of steel, my brother.
And liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery, returning to the space station, paving the way for future missions beyond.
Incredible, guys. Can't believe it. Now, I have 1 hour until I'm on orbit.
1 hour later.
Okay, it's time. Let's take the rigs and put them outside.
Yes.
Bogdanov, Ojaki doin Stratov, Corbit Coin Mining, Kia Venove Sinti in me Antirleaf, must stop Kiap from tricking, us alt team.
I'm super angry it can't continue like this. Activate Operation BN disconnect entire internet system for an hour then delete Bitcoin from existence.
Perfect. It's running. Let's check my portfolio right now.
What does it mean to have a Bitcoin? Many people have heard of Bitcoin, that it's a fully digital currency with no government to issue it.
Well, now to the war in Ukraine, where civilians are trying to evacuate after a missile attack. The attack at a railway station in eastern Ukraine killed at least 52 people and hurt over 100 others who were trying to flee the country. Now they're turning to buses or other means of transportation to try and leave. In his nightly address, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urged a firm global response to the train station attack. And here in Tampa Bay, Ukraine is getting help from its neighbors. The local Polish community held a fundraiser through a benefit concert at the Polish Center in Clearwater. It featured both Polish and Ukrainian performances, and the money raised will go to Ukrainian refugees in Poland.
Ukraine's president says there could be more gruesome discoveries ahead in the wake of the Russian troop withdrawal from the north of the country. There is mounting evidence of civilian killings, rape, and torture. Authorities believe hundreds have been killed in one town alone. Mass graves were recently uncovered in the town of Bucha, but President Volodymyr Zelensky says the situation in Borodyanka, 70 kilometers northwest of Kiev, is much more horrific. Our correspondent, Alexandra von Naumann, was just there and filed this report.
They have begun clearing the rubble, but any hope of finding survivors here is long gone. Borodyanka lay on the main route of the Russian offensive on Kiev. The scale of the destruction is so massive that even emergency workers seem shocked.
Now we see with our eyes what the Russians did to a peaceful town. There are no military bases here. They shot people dead, bombed high-rise blocks. I don't understand why.
When Russian planes dropped their bombs on the town in early March, these apartment buildings were demolished. Local authorities fear that up to 200 civilians were killed, their bodies still buried under the rubble.
In one of the blocks we meet Alexander. He is back to salvage some items from his ruined apartment. When the Russian bombardment started, he managed to flee together with his family.
It's bitter, damn it. I'm still wearing the same clothes I had on when I left. At least I want to take some things with me.
This used to be his children's room.
I don't really know what to say. Don't have words left. They're bastards. Putin and his whole government.
A few blocks away, a distribution center for humanitarian aid. Among the residents lining up, Nina and her family. They lived through a lot during the Russian occupation of their hometown, including hunger and constant fear.
They were pointing their guns at my daughter and the kids. I went down on my knees and screamed, begging them not to rape my daughter. You know what can happen.
Many here told us similar stories. Lena says she's still shaking when she thinks about the weeks under Russian occupation.
We have to thank our soldiers. They are so brave. They are so brave that they freed our Borodyanka. Look what they did to my town.
Borodyanka was once beautiful and green, residents told us. Now it lies in ruins. The town is free, but it has paid a high price for its freedom.
DW correspondent Nick Conley is in Kiev and joins us now. Nick, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the horrors inflicted on that town, Borodyanka, were even worse than what we saw in Bucha. Tell us more about what's been found there.
Well, I think most people here in Ukraine can't basically take their eyes off those images of those destroyed tower blocks in Borodyanka. Everyone's here basically guessing how many people are still trapped under those ruins, how many people managed to get out before those bombings, those shellings happened. I think the real difficulty now is trying to work out the numbers, trying to get some kind of handle on the scale of this. For now, as you saw in that report, it's all pretty chaotic. There are locals turning up, trying to salvage what's left of their property. Other government organizations trying to demine to make sure that if people go back, they're not going to face the risk of traps, of mines. But it certainly seems like the kind of images we saw in Bucha are no exception, that this was a more widespread thing in the territories around Kiev that were controlled by Russian army forces for the best part of a month. And we're getting some very, very, very distressing reports, not only of that shelling, basically indiscriminate shelling of residential areas, bombing of the kind we've seen in Mariupol, but also of arbitrary killings on the streets of the kind we saw in Bucha, but also of sexual violence.
And the war is continuing, of course, in other parts of the country. Where is the fighting concentrated now, Nick?
So right now it seems like Mariupol is still the #1 target, because after all, Mariupol on the Sea of Azov is basically the only thing between Russia and its self-proclaimed republics in Luhansk and Donetsk and Crimea, annexed Crimea. So that's the only basically thing in the way of Russia basically having an easier time of controlling that southeast of Ukraine. So there's a lot of fighting going on there. Some Ukrainian forces still there now, more than a month after that siege began. And then further to the north, near a city called Izium, which is basically southeast of Kharkiv, Ukraine's second city. So basically the sense now that Russia is putting all its forces into the southeast in the hope of exerting Ukraine's forces in Donbass. Now, that's not going to be so easy, because Donbass, as you'll remember, is the place where war has been basically in full swing since 2014, since Russia supported those separatist movements there. So the Ukrainian army is very well defended there, has trenches, has other kind of defensive setup. So this is not going to be easy. This is going to be very hard, a very static war. We've already had Ukrainian government sources warning this could be a battle on the scale and of the kind we saw at last, I guess, in Europe in World War II. Tanks, trench warfare, and very, very high losses on both sides.
Nick, the EU Commission President and the bloc's top diplomat are planning to meet with Ukraine's president in Kiev today. What can we expect there?
Well, obviously, for the Ukrainian side, this is about the optics. This is about Europe showing that it cares about Ukraine, that Europe also believes in Ukraine's ability to stand up for itself and to not basically fall apart under this Russian pressure. I think generally it's all about the weapons right now. It's all about the money. Yes, by the standards of the EU and individual European countries, they are doing a lot more than they have done in previous years. But compared to the billions and billions and billions of euros that are being transferred to Russia every day for energy, these sums are all pretty small, and the Ukraine is going to put more pressure on their guests, show them more of what's happening here in a hope of seeing a significant increase to that support, and fast, because the big thing you hear here time and time again from Ukrainian government officials, you might, make some plans to help us, but given how bureaucratic, how slow you are, that could reach us too late. So whatever you are planning, do it earlier, do it now, because we need that help today and not tomorrow.
Nick, thank you so much. Our correspondent Nick Conley there in Kiev. Well, as we heard, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is to meet President Zelensky in Kiev in a show of solidarity from the bloc. The bloc's top diplomat, Joseph Borrell, will also attend the meeting. Von der Leyen's new sanctions on Russia, including a ban on importing coal, vodka, and timber, were backed by EU member states this week. The new coal ban is estimated to be worth €4 billion a year, but that is just a fraction of what's spent on Russian oil and gas. And the ban isn't due to be implemented until August. Our Brussels correspondent Christine Munwa is covering this story. Christine, EU Commission President von der Leyen and Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell are on their way to meet President Zelensky in Kiev. Tell us about the significance of this trip.
Terry, it's a gesture of solidarity. It is the repeated affirmation to the Ukrainians that the European Union stands with Ukraine, that it will do whatever it can to support Ukraine in defending itself against Russia. But we've got to be honest about the fact that she's not necessarily going with everything that is needed in Ukraine. For example, the Ukrainians would like more support in terms of weaponry to fight Russia. We know, for example, that President Volodymyr Zelensky would like to see the European take a stronger stance against Moscow. Yes, she will be able to say that there are now increased sanctions on Moscow. She will be able to say we have now targeted Russia's energy sector, something that the European Union has been very slow to do. But it is really significant in the sense that it is a gesture of solidarity, and it does follow, for example, the European Parliament's President Roberto Metzola's visit last year, as well as the Prime Ministers of Poland, of Czechoslovakia, as well as Slovenia, also in March.
Now, the President Zelensky, he would have liked to see tougher sanctions on Russia, including a complete ban on energy imports. How far are EU member states from weaning themselves off Russian oil and gas?
It seems that's a little bit far away if you consider the messaging coming through from member states like Germany, like Italy, Slovakia, those who are most dependent on Russian gas, for example. These are really the member states, and Hungary, I can add to that list as well, who have been blocking the European Union from taking such a decision. The Baltic states, for example, have become the first in Europe to ban gas imports from Russia, but it appears economic interests are at play here. And the likes of Germany would also
look at somewhere and wonder what is going on inside their head.
So it does appear that there is more pressure on the European Union, especially as more images like those coming out of Bucha come onto the scene. We now see that they have now gone for the energy sector, but it appears it will be at least some time before we see a complete ban on Russian gas, for example, which is, of course, the main sticking point here.
President Zelensky has also called on the EU to grant Ukraine membership in the bloc. How likely is it that that will happen?
Well, Terry, being granted accession into the European Union is a process that takes years. And at the beginning of the invasion, in fact, days after Russia invaded Ukraine, Ukraine formally applied for membership of the European Union. And you had countries like Poland pressuring the bloc to fast-track Ukraine's application process, given the developments that had taken place there. There is some indication, as we've been reporting here on DW exclusively this week, that that is going to be happening, that Ukraine's application is being processed as we speak, that the Commission is forming an opinion or writing an opinion on that application that it will then give to EU leaders to consider in June. As a fast track that might be, it would still take years before the process is concluded and before Ukraine is given that membership, but it does appear to be on the agenda and work is underway for the process as we speak, Terry.
Christine, thank you very much. Our correspondent Christine Munwa in Brussels. Here's a look at a few other stories related to the war in Ukraine. The United Nations General Assembly is suspending Russia from its Human Rights Council over the war in Ukraine. It's only the second time a member state has been suspended from the council. Moscow has condemned the decision as politically motivated and illegal. A Nobel Prize-winning Russian journalist has been attacked on a train with red paint in an apparent protest over his newspaper's critical coverage of the war. Dmitry Muratov is editor-in-chief of the liberal Novaya Gazeta. Last week, it said it was suspending operations in Russia after receiving official warnings. NATO members have pledged to send more military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine after its foreign minister made an impassioned plea for help ahead of an expected Russian assault in the east. He says Ukraine urgently needs more weapons to fight off any fresh attack. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov has acknowledged that Russia has sustained significant losses of troops in Ukraine. In an interview with Sky News, he called it a huge tragedy for Russia. It's a rare admission by Russian officials of military losses, but Peskov said that Russia still hopes to reach its goals in the coming days. Russia's defense ministry reports that between 1,000 and 2,000 Russian soldiers have been killed, but independent estimates put the number closer to 10,000. Well, let's bring in Ruth Dearmond here. She's a senior lecturer for war studies at London's King's College. Thanks for being with us. Ruth, Russia has suffered significant troop losses in Ukraine. It's been forced to withdraw from the north. It's failed to capture major cities. What impact do you think all this is having on Russia's strategy in Ukraine?
Well, I think it's had a devastating impact on Russia's strategy. You know, we know that the initial plan was to take the capital Kyiv very quickly, really to take control of the whole country in 2 or 3 days, to remove President Zelensky, replacing him with a puppet. That didn't happen. There was then a more concerted attempt, or a longer attempt, to take key cities. That failed as well. So this is, you know, the next plan. None of it speaks to a well thought out, coherent, workable strategy, I think.
It seems Russia is now switching its focus to the south and east, to Donbas region and the coast. Are Russian forces in a better position to make gains there?
I mean, on the one hand, you would have to say they are, because that's a more feasible objective than attempting to capture the entire country, or even, you know, to take Kyiv, which is a very large city and would require an enormous troop presence to successfully take it and maintain control. And of course, you know, the Russians have had forces in this part of the country for a long time. It's close to Crimea, where they also have a significant presence. But on the other hand, after 6 weeks of failed campaign, failed war, international humiliation, and staggering troop and equipment losses, you know, the capacity to wage war effectively has to have been degraded significantly. Not least because morale is going to be very poor as well.
Now, Kiev is getting weapons and intelligence support from abroad, particularly from NATO countries. Do you think that will be enough for Ukraine to defend itself against the Russian onslaught over time?
It's very, very hard to say. There are so many variables at play here, but we have seen that the Ukrainian armed forces have done a spectacularly good job of defending themselves with what they have been given so far. So if they say that this equipment and this support will enable them to defend themselves, I think we have to take that pretty seriously. And of course, in contrast to the morale problems that we know Russia is facing, the Russian troops, you know, Ukraine has a very strong will to win, a will to fight.
Absolutely. What do you see then as the main factors that will determine how this war plays out?
There are lots of factors, I think. Obviously, you know, central to this is the ability of Ukraine to defend itself, which obviously requires significant military assistance in terms of kind of military aid from the West. Morale, clearly the will to win is very, very significant. Local support from the population on the ground is also key. And then what happens in the capitals. And again, you know, if we see the Russian government now admitting to losses, although much smaller than we think they are, that's a sign, I think, that they are worried about what's happening.
Ruth, thank you very much for that. That was Ruth Dearmond of King's College London. The war in Ukraine and the threat of a larger war in Europe. Those are the biggest concerns among people here in Germany, according to the latest poll by public broadcaster ARD. The survey also found that a large number of Germans think their government should be doing more to help end the conflict. DW's Thomas Sparrow reports.
A regular scene nowadays in Berlin, protests against the war in Ukraine.
People here in Germany are clearly worried.
The biggest concern is further escalation. The Europe and NATO fall apart.
The biggest fear is that the war will come here.
A new poll seems to confirm those feelings. A vast majority of Germans are concerned about the well-being of people in Ukraine. But many are also worried about the economic situation at home, energy supplies, or an even bigger war in Europe. German authorities have been helping Ukraine, for example, by sending weapons. A clear minority think the government's response has gone too far. Just over a third say it has been appropriate, but nearly 50% believe it hasn't gone far enough. This is also evident on the streets of Berlin.
More powerful weapons should be supplied.
I am in favor of an oil embargo.
Stronger action against authoritarian regimes should have been taken before.
Pressure is increasing on German authorities for them to do more, but it's unclear just how far they will go.
And joining me in the studio for some analysis is our political correspondent, Emmanuel Schatz. Emmanuel, pressure growing on German authorities from the public. Public pressure is something that German politicians, of course, think about. What do you make of the figures in this latest poll?
Well, it's very interesting to see that there's 91% of Germans who are actually very worried about what's happening to the Ukrainians right now in the war, but at the same time, 80% of them are actually worried about worsening of the economic situation, of the economic consequences of that war here in Germany. So there's very contradicting attitude, but there's growing concern about what's happening in Ukraine. I think we can really say that there's a before and after Bucha effect. After those terrible pictures reached us over the weekend, we can see that the mood has shifted significantly here in Germany, also on how the German government has reacted to this war.
Talking about how the German government has reacted, the German government made announcements regarding military spending that shocked a lot of people. It's a remarkable turnaround on Germany's military posture, and that seems to be going down pretty well.
Exactly. It is something we couldn't have thought about maybe 2 months ago. You know, the fact that Germany would deliver so many weapons to another country, but the support to that has grown significantly. And also what's interesting to see
One of Putin's pretexts for invading Ukraine was to denazify the country. That's nonsense. Ukraine's president is a moderate and a Jew, and the far right got 2% at the last election. But just because Putin's justification for his illegal invasion was just that, bogus, we shouldn't be afraid to talk about the far right in Ukraine. If we suppress inconvenient facts, that will only make people more liable to believe Putin's propaganda. And just as important, as this war continues, it will have effects beyond Ukraine. People across Europe are going to fight against Russia. We need to consider what might be motivating them and what groups they'll be fighting alongside. That applies even if the ultimate cause of defending Ukraine against an illegal invasion is a just one. We're going to get to the big players in a moment, in particular the Azov battalion. But first, let's start with some history. In the Second World War, most Ukrainians fought with the Red Army against the Nazis, but an influential group of nationalists collaborated with Hitler, including by organising pogroms against Jews. A leading figure in that movement was the fascist Stepan Bandera. Bandera, by the end of the war, would go on to fight for the independence of Ukraine from both the Soviet Union